Right. So today we're doing a deep dive into something really interesting. It's Titan Company's recent earnings call.
Oh, cool.
We're going to try to go beyond just what the headlines say about their performance.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, what does it really tell us about what's happening in the Indian market
All right.
and where things might be going?
Yeah.
So we've got the video of the call itself, and we've got a couple of analyst reports that kind of offer some different perspectives.
Interesting.
So hopefully by the end of this, we'll have some fascinating insights
Yeah.
about how consumers are behaving and all the different trends that are happening in the market.
Absolutely. Earnings calls are often overlooked.
Yeah.
But they're really valuable. I think they're a treasure trove of information.
Yeah.
It's not just about the financials of the company.
Right.
It's about the bigger picture of the whole industry.
Yeah.
And Titan, with its diverse portfolio, I mean, they've got everything.
Yeah.
Jewelry, watches, eyewear, so many different things. It offers a really compelling view
Yeah.
of the Indian consumer landscape.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So let's just jump right into it.
Okay.
Let's start with their jewelry segment.
Okay.
It's interesting because they're reporting this strong growth, which is pretty impressive when you consider how the economy is doing right now.
Right.
But within that growth, there's a little bit of a puzzle.
Oh.
There's strong demand for jewelry overall,
Okay.
but then a weaker demand for studded jewelry pieces, especially large solitaire diamonds.
Huh. That's interesting. What do you think is going on there?
Yeah, what's your take on that?
Well, that contrast is really interesting. It seems like there's still a strong desire, for gold jewelry in India, which makes sense, driven by cultural significance and investment value.
Yeah.
But there's definitely a shift happening within the segment.
Right.
Fluctuating gold prices could be making people hesitate
Yeah.
about buying those heavier, more expensive studded pieces.
Yeah, that makes you wonder if people are opting for lighter pieces,
Right.
to try to offset the rising cost of gold.
Yeah.
But Titan's leadership actually said they haven't really seen a clear trend towards that.
Interesting.
So if it's not the weight of the gold, what else could be at play here?
Well, this is where things get really interesting.
Right.
We have to consider the rising popularity of lab-grown diamonds.
Right, yeah.
Especially for solitaires.
Uh-huh.
A competitor, Trent, actually just recently launched a line of lab-grown diamond jewelry.
Okay.
And while Titan hasn't explicitly said what their plans are, they're definitely watching this market closely.
Yeah, I was really struck by Titan's observation that the strongest demand for lab-grown diamonds is in that sub-1 lakh price point,
Yeah.
with customers actually choosing larger lab-grown diamonds over smaller natural diamonds when their budget's the same.
Interesting.
What did that tell us about how consumers are thinking these days?
That's a really key detail.
Yeah.
It seems like there's a growing segment of consumers, maybe younger or more budget conscious,
Yeah.
who are prioritizing size and sparkle
Yeah.
over the traditional prestige of a mined diamond.
Mhm.
They're willing to embrace these new alternatives if it means getting the look that they want.
Yeah.
And for the same price.
Right.
So this raises some big questions about the future of the diamond market
For sure.
and how Titan will choose to play in this evolving landscape.
Yeah, it's definitely a fascinating dynamic.
Yeah.
But before we get too caught up in all the sparkle of diamonds,
Okay.
let's talk about something a little less glamorous,
All right.
but equally important.
Okay.
Titan's profitability.
Yeah.
They reported a pretty significant margin drop in Q2. So can you break down for us what contributed to that?
Sure. First, maybe we should clarify what we mean by margins.
No.
Essentially, it represents the profit a company makes
Yeah.
on each piece of jewelry they sell after taking out the costs. So a drop in margin means they're making less profit
Right.
on each sale.
Got it.
So for Titan, this was driven by a few things.
What were the biggest, I guess you could say, culprits?
Well, a one-time loss related to some changes in custom duty had a big impact.
Yeah.
And then as we were talking about, there were lower sales of studded jewelry,
Yeah.
which generally have higher margins,
Right.
and an increase in gold coin sales, which have lower margins.
So it's kind of a combination of things?
Right, a combination of external factors
Yeah.
and shifts within their product mix.
Okay, so how does this margin drop affect their outlook for the rest of the year?
Mm-hmm.
Did they give any kind of updated guidance?
They did. They actually revised their margin guidance for FY25 down to 11 to 11.5%.
Okay.
However, they projected that margins would get better in the second half of the year.
Okay.
And they cited a few reasons for this.
Okay. That's good. I mean, at least it sounds like things are looking up a little bit.
Yeah.
What are they banking on for this improvement?
It's a mix of internal and external factors.
Uh-huh.
They're putting some strategic initiatives in place to try to improve operational efficiency, and they're expecting a stronger festive and wedding season,
Right.
which usually drives jewelry sales way up.
Right.
And they also expect better performance in the diamond segment,
Okay.
which, as we've discussed, is going through some interesting changes.
Yeah. Yeah. So this raises an important question.
What's that?
What's Titan's strategy for dealing with this evolving diamond market?
Yeah.
Are they going to jump on the lab-grown diamond bandwagon?
Right?
Or are they going to stick with natural diamonds?
Well, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
Their leadership was actually pretty strategic in how they answered during the call.
Okay.
They acknowledged that lab-grown diamonds are significant,
Yeah.
and they indicated that they're watching the market very closely, but they didn't really reveal any concrete plans.
It really makes you wonder, are they waiting to see how things play out a little bit more? Or are they like strategically holding back and maybe working on their own lab-grown diamond offering behind the scenes?
Yeah, that's a good
What are
question.
your thoughts?
I think it's definitely a calculated approach.
Okay.
They're known for being very data-driven and customer-centric.
Yeah.
So I think they're gathering as much information as possible right now,
Okay.
analyzing consumer behavior, trying to really understand the nuances of the lab-grown market,
Yeah.
and maybe even experimenting with different strategies before they make any major moves.
That sounds like a smart play for sure.
Yeah.
Speaking of understanding the consumer,
Right.
Titan's leadership actually shared some pretty interesting observations
Oh, yeah.
about consumer behavior
Okay.
across different price segments. And it sounds like they're having to adjust their strategies
Right.
to cater to those differences.
Yeah.
Could you tell us a little bit about what they were saying?
One of the most striking things they mentioned was the distinct difference. Okay.
In behavior between consumers in different price brackets?
Yeah.
So, for example, those in higher price segments might not be as sensitive to gold price fluctuations,
Yeah.
but those in lower segments are much more cautious,
Right.
and they might delay purchases or opt for lighter pieces.
Wow. So it's like they're navigating two completely different
Right.
markets within the same category.
Yeah.
How are they adapting to that?
Well, they're becoming much more nuanced in their approach.
Okay.
So for the price-sensitive segment, they might emphasize value propositions, offer lighter weight designs, and promote their gold exchange programs,
Okay.
which can be really appealing when gold prices are high.
Right.
But for that higher-end segment,
Yeah.
they might focus more on exclusivity,
Okay.
craftsmanship,
Yeah.
and really unique designs that justify that premium price point.
Yeah, it's almost like they're running two separate marketing campaigns
Yes.
within the same brand.
But what about those gold exchange programs?
Yeah.
How are those affected by price fluctuations
Yeah.
and just overall how people are feeling?
Gold exchange programs are actually a fascinating look
Okay.
into broader market dynamics. So
Okay.
when gold prices are high, like they are right now, people are less likely to exchange their old jewelry
Yeah.
because they see the value going up. It's
Right.
like holding on to a stock that, is going up in price.
Makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
So does that mean that gold exchange programs become less relevant when prices are high?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
While overall participation might decline, there's still people who use these programs for different reasons.
Okay.
Some people might need cash right away.
Yeah.
Others might be looking to upgrade to a new design. And some people might just be emotionally ready to let go of old pieces.
Right. So Titan needs to be pretty adaptable
Yes.
in how they manage these programs too.
Yeah, they do.
It's like they're constantly adjusting their sales to navigate the changing winds of the market.
Exactly. And this ability to adapt
Yeah.
is crucial, especially in a market as dynamic and diverse as India.
Yeah.
And don't forget, Titan isn't just a jewelry company.
Right.
They have a whole portfolio of brands.
Right.
Watches, eyewear, ethnic wear, fragrances,
Mm-hmm.
so many things.
Yeah.
Their success really depends on understanding the nuances of each market segment.
Right.
And then tailoring their strategies accordingly.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Yeah.
We spent a lot of time talking about jewelry.
We have.
But let's shift gears a little bit.
Okay.
And explore some of Titan's other ventures.
All right.
Their analog watch business, for example, is reportedly doing really well.
Yeah.
What's driving that growth?
There's a few key factors.
Okay.
First, there's a clear trend toward premiumization in the watch market.
Okay.
People are more and more willing to spend money on high-quality, well-crafted watches that make a statement. And Titan has capitalized on this trend with their focus on design and craftsmanship and brand building.
So it's not just about telling time anymore.
No, it's not.
It's about expressing your personal style.
Right.
Maybe even making an investment.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And Titan has been really good at tapping into that aspirational mindset.
Yeah.
They've also been smart about their product development.
Okay.
They've introduced innovative designs. They're incorporating new materials.
Mm-hmm.
And they're collaborating with designers to create those limited edition pieces
that
generate a lot of buzz and excitement.
Yeah. So it sounds like they're applying a similar strategy to what we're seeing in the jewelry segment.
Right.
They're adapting to evolving consumer preferences and finding ways to stand out in a crowded market.
Exactly.
What about their other ventures?
Mm-hmm.
Are they seeing the same kind of success in eyewear, ethnic wear, and fragrances?
While those businesses are still relatively small, compared to their jewelry and watch segments, they're showing some promising growth.
Okay.
Titan Eye plus their eyewear business is gaining traction with its focus on affordability and a wide selection of styles.
Okay.
And they're also using technology to improve the customer experience.
That's cool. How so?
Things like virtual try-ons and online eye tests.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So they're really blending that online and offline experience.
They are.
Which is becoming increasingly important
in
today's world.
Absolutely.
What about Tenera, their ethnic wear brand?
That's an interesting one. It's positioned in the premium ethnic wear segment with a focus on handcrafted saris and traditional Indian attire. So they're targeting a customer who really appreciates quality, authenticity, and craftsmanship. It's a niche market, but they're steadily building a loyal following.
It seems like they're tapping into that growing appreciation for heritage and craftsmanship in India.
Absolutely.
That's great. What about the fragrance business?
That's also doing well.
Okay.
They're focused on both traditional Indian scents
Okay.
and contemporary fragrances.
Ooh.
And they've been successful in creating a distinct brand identity and attracting loyal customers.
So overall, it sounds like Titan is doing pretty well.
Yeah, they're firing all cylinders.
Even in a tough market.
Mm-hmm.
You know me, though.
Yeah.
I always love those little details, the things that kind of make you go, huh, that's interesting.
Uh-huh.
Did you find any of those in this earnings call?
Oh, definitely.
All right, let's hear it.
One thing that really stood out to me was the fact that even after all these years of hallmarking being mandatory in India, Titan still gets gold below 22K purity in their exchange program.
Oh, wow.
It really shows how persistent traditional practices are and the trust that people place in established jewelers like Titan.
That's a really good point. It's a reminder that even in a rapidly modernizing society, those cultural norms and practices can have a really lasting impact.
They do.
Any other interesting nuggets that stood out to you?
Well, there's a proposal to increase the GST on luxury watches above 25,000 rupees.
Okay.
If that happens,
it
could have a big impact on Titan's watch business.
Yeah, especially as they're moving more into the premium segment.
Exactly.
Ah, yes, the ever-changing world of taxes and regulations.
Right.
Always something to think about.
Yeah.
Anything else that you thought was interesting?
They also shared their store expansion plans for Tanishq and Carat Lane.
Okay.
They're two big jewelry brands. They're planning to add 40 to 50 new Tanishq Q stores.
Wow.
And 20 new Carat Lane stores before the end of the fiscal year.
So even with the economy being a little shaky right now, they're still investing in growth. That shows a lot of confidence in the Indian market.
It does.
And their ability to capture a bigger piece of it.
Absolutely. They're playing the long game here.
Yeah.
And their aggressive expansion plans suggest that they believe the Indian consumer is going to continue to rise.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here.
We have.
The intricacies of the jewelry market.
Yeah.
The impressive performance of Titan's watch business. Those interesting expansion plans.
Right.
It's clear that Titan is a company that's constantly adapting.
Yes.
And innovating to stay ahead.
Yeah.
But what are the biggest takeaways from this? What should our listener be walking away with?
I think the biggest takeaway is that even when times are uncertain,
Yeah.
companies that really understand their consumers, who adapt to changing trends, and innovate in smart ways, can not only survive but thrive.
Yeah.
Titan's story is a perfect example of that.
For sure.
They're not just reacting to what the market is doing, they're shaping their own future.
Yeah. Couldn't have said it better myself. Now, I know we're just about out of time for part 1 of this deep dive.
Okay.
But before we move on, I have to ask you, what's the one big question that's lingering in your mind after analyzing all this information?
You know, the question that keeps coming back to me is how will Titan handle this whole lab-grown diamond situation?
Yeah.
Will they fully embrace this new market?
Right.
Or stick with their focus on natural diamonds?
Yeah.
Maybe finding a way to differentiate themselves within that space.
It's a really interesting challenge.
It is.
And I can't wait to see how they handle it.
Me too.
It's like a cliffhanger ending to part 1.
It is.
We'll have to wait for part 2 to really dig into that question.
Yeah.
And explore what Titan's potential strategies might be.
I'm excited.
But for now, our listener has plenty to think about.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, it's a big decision.
For sure.
Could have major implications.
Yeah.
Not just for them, but for the whole industry.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it ties into something we're seeing a lot lately.
Oh, yeah.
This rise of alternative options and how the big players respond to that.
Yeah. Do they dig in and try to protect the traditional way of doing things?
Yeah.
Or embrace the new? Or try to find some way to bridge the two?
Yeah, find that middle ground.
Yeah, it's tricky.
It is. Titan seems to be taking that measured approach.
They do.
You know, carefully looking at everything before they make a move.
They're really good at understanding their customers.
Yeah.
So I imagine they're spending a lot of time thinking about the lab-grown diamond buyer.
Right.
What motivates them? What are they sensitive to in terms of price? How do they perceive value?
Yeah. It's like they're trying to crack the code of this new customer before they show their hand. But while we wait for Titan to make their next move in the diamond world, let's talk about something else that caught my attention.
All right. What's that?
Their efforts to be more transparent and ethical when it comes to their supply chain.
That's huge these days.
It is.
I mean, especially with consumers being so aware of the impact of what they buy.
Right. It's not just about looking good anymore.
No.
It's about feeling good about what you're buying.
It is.
And Titan seems to be taking that really seriously.
Yeah.
They're promoting responsible mining practices and partnering with organizations that support ethical sourcing.
That's a smart move, not just from a values perspective, but for their business too.
Yeah.
Transparency and ethical sourcing are becoming essential if a brand wants to differentiate themselves.
Especially for those luxury brands. That's like a whole new level of value that consumers are adding into the equation now.
For sure.
It does make you wonder, though.
What's that?
How tough is it for a company as big as Titan with such a complex supply chain to really make sure everything is ethical?
Yeah, it's a huge undertaking.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of tracking, really good auditing processes, strong partnerships all along the way.
Yeah.
And even then, there's always a chance something slips through the cracks.
Right.
So they have to constantly monitor and improve their processes.
So it's never really over.
It's a continuous process.
Yeah, like a constant quest for ethical perfection.
Yeah, pretty much.
But I guess even just trying to get there sends a powerful message.
It does.
To their customers.
It shows they're committed to doing business the right way.
Yeah.
And that can build a lot of trust and loyalty.
Yeah, speaking of consumer trust, you know, we talked about that anecdote earlier.
Which one?
The fact that they're still getting gold.
Oh, right.
Below 22K purity.
Yeah.
Even though hallmarking is supposed to be mandatory. What do you make of that?
It really shows how complex consumer behavior can be.
Yeah.
And how markets really work. It suggests that even with all these rules,
and standards in place, people still rely on that trust.
Yeah.
And familiarity.
Yeah.
Have with a jeweler like Titan.
It's like they're saying, I know you'll take care of me.
Right.
Even if this isn't perfect.
Exactly.
Yeah, that really highlights the importance of those relationships.
It does.
And building a reputation for being fair and transparent.
It makes a big difference.
I wonder if that contributes to their success.
It might.
With dealing with all these price fluctuations
Yeah.
and the changes in what people want.
Possibly. I mean, when you trust a brand,
Yeah,
you're more likely to stick with them,
Yeah.
even when things are a little uncertain.
that makes sense.
Yeah,
Trust is valuable,
it is.
especially in an industry where so much is based on
Yeah,
emotions and perceptions.
absolutely.
But let's zoom out a little bit.
Okay.
We've been focused on Titan,
Right.
but what does their story tell us about the Indian retail market as a whole?
Hmm.
What are the big trends,
Yeah.
and what can other businesses learn from this?
I think Titan's success provides some valuable lessons for other retailers.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, like what?
Well, first of all, it highlights how important it is to
Right.
really understand the Indian consumer.
Wow.
It's not just one big market.
Right.
There are so many different groups of people
Yeah?
with different needs,
Yeah.
different preferences,
Wow.
and they react to price differently. So
Mhm.
you have to tailor what you offer
Yeah.
and how you market it to each group.
It's like a giant puzzle
It is.
with all these different pieces
Yeah.
to figure out what
And
else.
Another important takeaway
Yeah.
is how important it is to adapt and innovate.
Right, because things change so quickly.
They do. The Indian retail landscape is constantly evolving.
Mhm.
New trends are always popping up.
Yeah.
Technology is changing the game.
Right.
And customer expectations are shifting all the time.
So you can't just sit back and relax.
Definitely not. You have
Yeah.
to be ready to move quickly
Mhm.
and respond to what's happening
Yeah.
and always look for ways to get better
Oh.
and stand out from the crowd.
What else was the third big takeaway?
I think Titan's story shows how important it is
Yeah.
to build a strong brand,
Right.
one that really connects with consumers.
Yeah.
They've done a great job of positioning themselves as a trustworthy,
Yeah.
reliable,
Mhm.
aspirational brand,
Yeah.
and that has helped them deal with tough market conditions
Right.
and maintain their position as a leader.
It's like they've built a fortress,
It is.
protecting them from the competition
Yeah, that's a great way to put it.
and all the ups and downs of the market.
Strong brands are like lighthouses.
Oh, I like
They
that.
guide consumers through all the noise.
So many choices out there.
I know.
Yeah, that sense of trust
Hmm.
and familiarity
Yeah,
can make all the difference.
absolutely.
It can mean the difference between success
Right.
and just fading away.
But with all this talk about strategy
Yeah.
and branding,
Yeah.
let's not forget about the human side of retail.
Oh, that's important.
It is, at the end of the day, it's about connecting with people
Mm-hmm.
on an emotional level,
Right.
understanding what they want to achieve,
Yeah.
and giving them experiences that make them happy.
It's a good reminder
It is.
that even with all the data
Yeah.
and technology,
Uh,
that personal touch still matters.
It really does.
The companies that get that balance right,
Mhm.
the strategic thinking combined with that empathy for the customer,
Yeah,
those are the ones that are going to win in India.
absolutely.
So as we're wrapping up part 2 of this deep dive,
Okay.
what stood out to you the most?
Mm.
What's the one piece of wisdom
Hmm.
you'd want our listeners to remember?
I think for me, the most important thing is how dynamic the Indian retail market is.
Yeah, it's always changing.
It's constantly in motion.
Mhm.
New trends are emerging.
Yeah.
Consumer behaviors are changing.
Uh-huh.
Competition is getting more intense.
It's a challenge,
It is.
but it's also exciting.
It is incredibly exciting.
Yeah, it really is like a living organism,
It is.
always adapting to its environment.
Exactly. And if businesses want to succeed,
Yeah.
they have to embrace that,
Mhm.
be flexible, be
Yeah.
innovative,
Yeah.
and really understand what the Indian consumer wants.
That's key.
It is.
It's a good reminder that change is the only constant.
It is.
But those who can handle it
Yeah,
will be rewarded.
absolutely.
Yeah, it really is a market that keeps you on your toes.
It does.
You got to be ready for anything.
Yeah, you have to adapt.
And speaking of adapting,
Mm-hmm.
let's go back to lab-grown diamonds
Okay.
and how Titan's handling that whole situation.
It's the big question, isn't it?
It is.
Everyone's trying to figure it out.
Yeah. Will lab-grown diamonds take over?
Right.
Or will people still want the real thing?
Yeah, well, they still value natural diamonds.
It's almost like a philosophical question.
It is.
What defines value when it comes to diamonds?
Right. Is it just about how rare they are?
Yeah.
Or the tradition? Or is it simply about how beautiful they are?
Right. How much they sparkle.
Yeah, Titan seems to be taking a kind of multifaceted approach.
Okay.
They're acknowledging that lab-grown diamonds are becoming more popular.
Yeah.
But they're also saying that natural diamonds still have value.
Okay.
They've hinted that they might explore both markets,
Okay.
maybe offering different things to different types of customers.
Right. So they've got to be careful.
Yeah, it's a tough balance.
Yeah. They want to alienate those loyal customers.
Right, the ones who love natural diamonds.
Right. Who want that tradition and exclusivity.
Mm-hmm. But they also have to appeal to those younger generations.
Yeah.
Who might be more open to these alternatives.
Yeah, for sure. It's like that classic innovator's dilemma.
It is.
How do you embrace something new without getting rid of the old?
Exactly. And Titan's in a really good position to figure this out.
Yeah.
I mean, they've always been innovative, and they really focus on their customers.
It's like they're writing a new chapter.
I like
in the diamond story.
Yeah.
Where both kinds of diamonds have their place.
Right.
But as this new chapter unfolds, what do you think will shape the future of diamonds?
I think one really important factor will be consumer education.
Okay.
There's still a lot of confusion out there about lab-grown diamonds.
Right. Like, are they fake?
Yeah.
Are they not as good?
Mm-hmm. Some people see them as a more ethical and sustainable option.
Okay.
But others just don't know what to think.
So brands and retailers really need to be clear.
They do.
About what these diamonds are.
Yeah. Transparency is key.
Yeah. And they need to build trust with their customers.
Absolutely.
What else do you think will be important?
Price will definitely be a big factor.
Okay.
Right now, lab-grown diamonds are a lot cheaper than natural diamonds. But as technology improves and production increases, that price difference might get smaller.
That's interesting. So it makes you wonder, will the lower price be enough to convince people to choose lab-grown?
Right.
Or will that allure of a natural diamond with its history and rarity?
Yeah.
Will that still be the deciding factor?
That's the big question.
It is. In the end, it really comes down to what the customer wants.
Right.
What do they value most in a diamond? Do they care about tradition?
Yeah.
Sustainability? Do they just want the biggest, most sparkly diamond they can get?
Right.
Or is it just about having something beautiful?
It's going to be interesting to see how this all plays out.
Yeah, it's an exciting time for the diamond market.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into Titan Company and the Indian retail landscape, what's the one big takeaway you want our listeners to walk away with?
I think the biggest takeaway is that the world of retail never stands still.
It's always changing.
It is consumer preferences change.
Yeah.
Technology disrupts everything. And the idea of value is constantly being redefined. So what does that mean for businesses?
It means they have to adapt.
Yeah.
They have to be innovative. And they have to really understand what their customers want.
Yeah, it all goes back to the customer.
It does.
So remember, everyone, change is the only constant in retail.
It's true.
But if you can embrace that change,
the
rewards are out there.
Absolutely.
That's a great point to end on.
Thanks.
A big thank you to our listeners.
Yes.
For joining us on this deep dive.
It was a fun one.
Into Titan Company.
Yeah.
And the ever-changing world of Indian retail.
Absolutely.
We hope you found this insightful and thought-provoking.
Yeah.
And maybe even a little inspiring.
I hope so.
So until next time.
Yeah.
Keep those minds curious.
Keep learning.
And those wallets open.
And keep shopping smart.
And remember, the best shopping decisions are the ones that make you happy.
Couldn't agree more.
Thanks for joining us.
It was my pleasure.